What is going on, YouTube? Today I'm going to talk about 5 things that I absolutely hate about this motorcycle. Let's get into it. So I've owned this bike for about, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks now. I've done a lot of things to it already. I've still got things in the box at the house that I haven't installed on the bike. Good stuff, y'all. It's just a fun little bike, and I've had so much fun with it. But nothing in life is perfect. As good as this bike is, it is absolutely not perfect, and you won't find a perfect motorcycle. I just don't think it exists, unless it's a Hayabusa or perhaps a KLR. But all that said, there are some things that drive me nuts. And the number one thing that drives me nuts about this bike, I'm just going to get it out in the open, is the factory tune on this motorcycle. The throttle is pretty good, no real complaints there. But as everybody knows, in the United States, the EPA and Kawasaki got together and conspired to neuter this bike above 11,000 RPM. And they did that in the name of the earth. Look, y'all, I'm all about having a clean planet and whatnot, but I don't know. Maybe I just don't understand what the impact of a little extra nitrous oxide is in the environment. I mean, sounds like a good time to me, right? But anyway, this bike goes up to 11K, and then the torque, what little there is, just goes away, and everything just starts to peter off, and not a good time. In Europe, somehow you people over there got the real tune with the full Monty power from Kawasaki, and I don't understand how that happened. It's crazy. I thought y'all were more touchy-feely about the environment than us Yanks are. Yeah, no idea. But to make matters worse, you know, these bikes, people are reporting engine failures in them at a rate that is probably, you know, a rounding error below 1%, but more than I'd like to see for a bike that I just bought. Certainly not something I have heard about a lot of bikes recently. In the United States, Kawasaki gives us a whopping 1-year warranty, just 1 year, probably because they knew nobody was going to make it to year 2 without tuning this bike. It's, you know, I guess that's why they did it. And in Europe, y'all get 4 years. Congratulations. Your governments are working better for you than they are for us. All right, y'all, the number 2 thing I hate the most about this bike is neutral. It's really hard to find. You never know where it is. But it's not where you need it, that's for damn sure. I always thought, see, you just did it. I always thought that Kawasaki's had this magical neutral thing. I've even seen Bert's bike talk about it, and Fortnite talk about it after they ripped off Bert's bike. And, you know, I'm coming from a background that includes a little bit of KTM, and those are notoriously difficult neutral positions to locate. And this bike, it is really, really hard, y'all. It's just such a fun spot, and you just shoot right past it. So easy. And it's pretty bad when I'm giving props to KTM over Kawasaki. That's pretty bad. All right, so the number 3 thing that I really hate about this bike is definitely the user interface that Kawasaki blessed this bike with. And I use the word blessed in a bit tongue-in-cheek way, y'all, for those of y'all that ain't from around here. Let's just say that when it comes to the person that designed this user interface, as we would say here in the South, bless their heart. Yeah, button combos. Man, you got to use a button combo for anything on this bike. It is a real pain, and it's not intuitive. You use this little selector on the left, and then sometimes you use this other select button on the right, and then sometimes you use these 2 buttons in here in the front underneath the LCD or to either side of it. I guess I should say TFT, it's on an LCD, but you get my point. And it's like a whole series of things you got to remember, and I can't. I'm starting to get the hang of it at 500 plus miles, but absolutely as intuitive as a VCR was back in the 80s. If any of y'all remember programming VCRs, or maybe programming an old school electronic thermostat in your house before you had a Nest or an Ecobee, it's about as fun as that. And when you're on a machine that is literally designed for a good time, having a user interface that's as bad as this is crazy frustrating. Oh, that was embarrassing. First time I've had the quick shifter do that. I mean, if you get something as simple as changing the background on this from black to white, requires that you hold some stuff down, and if you do it wrong, you end up erasing a data point either on your, not your odometer, but your trip meter, or your average MPG, or your timer that times how long you've been riding. And these are things you might want to not zero out. I mean, it's not the end of the world if you do, in most cases. But any kind of interface that allows you to make an accidental change to something while trying to change something else is frankly not a very good interface, in my opinion. As a result, I don't even want to mess with it. Like, it's super frustrating. I've used interfaces that are miles better than this on motorcycles. It kind of makes me just want to go back to analog gauges. I really just kind of prefer them. But yeah, the user interface on this bike, in my opinion, it sucks. My number 4 pet peeve on this motorcycle is the seat. I realize, y'all, this is a sports bike, or it's supposed to be a sports bike. And the seat is supposed to be firm, and you're supposed to be able to move around, you know, and you don't want something that's going to coddle your butt to the point that you can't scoot around and shift your weight. I get it. I really get it. But if Kawasaki cared that much about aggressive riding on this machine, why do they give it such upright ergonomics? Why are the clip-ons up above the triple tree clamp thing? I don't get it. It seems like the person in charge of the seat was like, full commit. We must have the best sporting seat on this very focused motorcycle. And then the people that were in charge of the marketing about who this bike was going to target, they're like, yeah, I don't know, man. Everybody else is doing upright ergos on the GSX8R and, you know, whatnot. And the R7, the ergos were probably too forward on that bike. We don't want to go that far. And I don't know if, you know, this happened in some boardroom or there wasn't a meeting and somebody didn't, you know, put 2 and 2 together. It just seems odd that you would commit to a very hard seat. And I'm not one to complain about seats a lot, but it seems odd that you would commit to that and then give this bike such relaxed ergonomics for a sports bike. I don't get it, y'all. I don't get it. 5, there we go, 5 fingers. My number 5 pet peeve about this motorcycle is the weight. Now look, it's not a real problem. It's not going to cost you a significant issue on the street. And if you're a beginner, the weight is low enough and the bike is small enough, you're not going to probably notice the difference between the 430-pound bike that this is, or whatever it is, something close to that, and a 400-pound bike. You're just not. But why, Kawasaki? I mean, I really don't get it. When you look at other bikes in Kawasaki's own lineup, this bike weighs a lot. Compare it to the Ninja 500 that just came out. A bike that costs about, what, $4,000 less than this bike? and it weighs a lot less. Now I get it, it's a twin cylinder, but still. It also makes twice the amount of torque, but I'm not bitter about that in the least bit. But if you compare this bike to, say, the ZX4RR, which is about a Graves exhaust difference in price, about $1,800. That's about what you pay for a Graves full exhaust, and that's the difference between this bike and that bike. That bike only weighs a few pounds more than this. And now I bet you're asking, well, why did you even bring it up? Well, the reason I bring it up is because that bike is way faster, way better in every conceivable way performance-wise. And I think one of the reasons this bike weighs so much is because the chassis on this bike is steel. And I don't get it, because it's a premium priced motorcycle for what it is. There's very little value for money here. You're paying for novelty and nostalgia and uniqueness and all these things. Why they could not have given us a real aluminium frame for all you Brits? I don't get it. I just don't get it. I guess we're all suckers out here paying, you know, almost 10 G's for a motorcycle with a steel frame and a inline 4. I mean, it reminds me of like a very small Suzuki Bandit from back in the day or something, you know, like a repackage of this fantastic motor in a very kind of down market chassis. All right, I'm getting passed by a Ram, but I am on a 400cc and I am breaking the bike in. But yeah, I just don't understand why Kawasaki chose to give us a World Superbike inspired frame on a motorcycle that costs this much. Why couldn't they just given us a real World Superbike type frame made out of aluminum? And I am bitter about that. I think it's ridiculous. So that's it, y'all. Those are my 5 pet peeves about the ZX4R and ZX4RR. There are a lot of good things about this bike. Do not let my peeves get you down, but if you're shopping for it, I feel like you at least need to be aware of them. If I missed any of your pet peeves, put them in the comments below. I want to know about them. I mean, I just think it's interesting to hear about what irks people. I mean, I know the seat comes up on every motorcycle ever, but if you have something else besides the seat, let us know in the comments what your pet peeve is. If you disagree with any of my comments or thoughts, tell us. I want to know how terrible I am at finding peeves about a motorcycle. And if you're still here, please consider subscribing to the channel. I would really, really appreciate it. You know, it'll help people find content about the ZX4R, about the DR650 when I bring it back to the channel, and about a new motorcycle that I haven't introduced just yet. So until next time, y'all, ride safe out there and keep it shiny side up.